Good afternoon. My name is Kirsten Kruuse, and I'm from the Aarhus University Library, which is a part of the Royal Danish Library. On behalf of the LIBER Research Data Management Working Group, it's a pleasure for me to welcome you all to this webinar on the use and reuse of data management plans. As you probably know, libraries can play a crucial role in supporting the content of data management plans. Just to mention a few examples, libraries can provide guidance and training to researchers on creating effective DMPs. We can offer DMP review services to help researchers ensure that their plans meet funder requirements and institutional policies, and we can help to ensure that data are well documented and organized according to the information in the DMP. Today's webinar will focus on how libraries can use the content of data management plans to develop better services. Also, a warm welcome to our three speakers. The first speaker is Dr. Kerstin Wedlich-Zachodin from the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. The title of her presentation is Linking a DMP Tool to a Repository, an update on the use of RDMO and RADAR. The second speaker is Elisa Rodenburg from the Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam. Elisa will talk about reusing DMP content for other purposes. The third speaker is Elisa Kuusniemi from the Helsinki University Library. The title of her presentation is Targeted Marketing of an Institutional Long-Term Preservation Archive. There will be time for questions after each presentation. After the presentations, we'll send you into breakout rooms, and we have prepared some discussion points, but you are free to add other topics as well. Each group should pick a reporter and report on their main thoughts. We'll get back to the discussion points later. As for housekeeping rules, there are 5 things you should be aware of. Keep your cameras and microphones closed during the presentations. Use raise hand under reactions at the bottom of the screen or the chat for questions or comments. Please participate actively in polls and group discussion. Join designated discussion group. Use camera and microphone in there. And the session is being recorded. Now it's time for poll, and we have prepared some questions for you, and I'll just stop my sharing of the screen so that the LIBER office can introduce the poll questions for you. Okay, so all of you have some understanding of what a data management plan is. Few people have a general idea, but have never seen a DMP. Many people have made or read several DMPs, and also quite many people are experts in DMPs. So thank you very much. Yes, and now it's time for the first presentation. And as you can see on the screen, there's a short abstract, and it is presented by Dr. Kerstin Wedlich-Zachodin from Karlsruhe. And I'll stop my share so that Kerstin can share her slides.
So, hello everyone. I hope you can see everything. Sorry you can't see me because my camera is not working. And I didn't want to start a computer again. So we just have to deal with that now. Yeah, I'm presenting together with Kerstin Soltau from the FIZ Karlsruhe, who is the product manager of RADAR, the repository. And I'm talking about how we are linking a DMP tool to this repository. And as a DMP tool, we are using the Research Data Management Organizer. It's a German development, which is, so the questionnaires and everything is usually more tailored to the German funders. But we also have, of course, the Horizon Europe as an example. And yeah, and it's also available in a few languages. So actually anybody can use it if he wants to. Yeah, so I'm just gonna start right now, giving you a little bit of a detail on the Research Data Management Organizer. For us, it is more than just another DMP tool, because it's really more organizer. And so we're shifting from the static DMP templates we usually know to actually some active ones. And so the focus shifts from planning to organizing research data management. This is very nice because you're structuring the information on research data management based on projects and also on collaborations. You can import and export projects between different research data management organ instances. So there are a few ones now available in Germany. And also we have freely programmable project exports and imports. These are called so RDMO plugins. We have a few ones. It's the RDA DMP Common Standard for Machine Actionable DMP. We have also one for dataset XML for datasets. And then we have also the one for RADAR metadata JSON for datasets. And we have a few other ones, but we are going to focus on the RADAR one. And you can also make use of external APIs. That's also possible with this tool. Then just another more detailed view of RDMO itself. So it kind of works like through a structured interview. So we have various question catalogs, generic, but also discipline-specific ones. You can have more institutional ones. We have various widgets, controlled vocabularies, help text, navigation system. We have tabs for different project partners, dataset, etc. And there's also a possibility to skipping questions with different conditions. So the conditions basically tell you if there's a yes or no question. And if you say no, you avoid the next one. I already mentioned it's multilingual. So we have German, English, French, Italian, and Spanish by now. But the default one is always English. And we usually have a German translation. Yeah, we can create different versions, so by snapshots. We can display various tasks, such as what is something else what I still need to do, and display and export questions of you in common formats and according to the requirement of specific funders, such as the Horizon Europe, for instance. Just a few quick overview. How many there are right now. You see on the left-hand side a map. We even have, so it's not just Germany, we also have an instance in Austria, in Vienna, but there's also one in Italy and another one, I think, in France. So yeah, so there's a big community out there. And also this ensures kind of the continuity of the software because we came together as a community. We funded a working group together, which consists of 3 different groups, like a governance group who governs the group itself. Then we have a software group, which is responsible for the development, of course. And we have a content group. And the content group usually takes care of something like adding new attributes, which link the questions to the domain. And we have like We have different sub-working groups which kind of do different things, such as developing content of a new questionnaire, etc., or working on the website of the community, etc. We use, so for the users, we use Slack channels for exchanging opinions and help. So if somebody wants to get in contact with us, the fastest way is always through Slack channel, but we also have a DFN mailing list on which we can put you onto. And now I would just like to give you a quick demonstration. I think that's better than showing you just some screenshots. So I will stop the sharing again and go right into the tool, because we really actually wanted to show you how this actually works, connecting via this plugin. So just 1 second again. So this is this one. So I'm guessing you can see this. I'm just gonna quickly log in via ORCID. This is one thing. It's just one moment. So this should be working. So usually this is the main page in the beginning. Once you logged into the system with ORCID, you see the projects here. Usually this would be empty, but I already added 2 projects of mine. We can usually create here a new project. I don't want to show everything, but usually this is how it works. You create a new project, you give a title, you choose a catalog, and depending on which instance you're logging onto, you have different catalogs available. The RDMO catalog here is the main one, the default one. And you always have a possibility also to add a parent project to your current project, so you kind of can connect them. So I could choose here if I wanted to. Anyway, I just want to show you the project we put together just for today, called it the Test LIBER workshop. So once you established your project, basically, this is the display you get. So you get a description of the questionnaire, the catalog you see. You can always edit things via this pencil here on the right-hand side. And on the right-hand side, you have a lot of options of updating the catalog, the project, the task, whatever. There's a big part here called the export. So this is also a way also to make sure that you're always are updated with or you have the right files all the time, because you can export your DMP as an XML file, which makes it possible for you also to import it into any other instance, because this is how it works. But what we also have down here is you can also export it as RADAR XML. And we also have something like called directly to RADAR or directly to Zenodo. And we are going later to show you how this here works. But just a few more things which are nice about this tool. Like I already said, tasks are displayed here. Then we have different views. So you can have a view from Horizon Europe here, for instance. I can show that later. And also you can add members. So you can see me here is Kerstin Wedlich-Zachodin, and you can see Kerstin Soltau. She's the owner at the moment, and I'm just a manager. So if you want to add somebody else, you can do that. Yeah, so usually you can, it's probably not me. I cannot show you this because I'm not the owner. This is why the button is not here. Sorry. But usually I would be able to add somebody else to the project. But in this case, only the owner can do this. But usually you are able to give different roles. So if I'm the owner, I can invite somebody and give him the function as a author, or just somebody who can read, and cannot change anything. So this is possible here. Snapshots are usually displayed here, and this now works that we start with just answering the questions. So it starts with the general questions, usually with a topic, and so it goes now through a lot of questions, and I don't want to go all through of this because we don't have so much time. I just wanted to show you where you add basically the just one second. Where you add the data sets. So here there's a section where you can add the data sets. So per data set, you add an extra data management plan, so to say. So per data set, you give a different name, which we've done here. We have data set 1 and we have data set 2. And these are the ones which we should, at least the metadata, which should be later be transferred to the repository. Yeah, so as you can see here on the right-hand side, just to give you a quick update here. Here's the project, we have the catalog. We can always go back to our projects. Here's the progress bar, which kind of tells us how many questions we answered. And the navigation here shows us where we are. So this is how it works usually. So if I go now to the last one, and I go to complete questionnaire, it says done. Thank you for filling out the questionnaire. And I can view my answers. They're being displayed here. On the right-hand side, I have export options in various formats. PDF can be also just TXT, but it can be also LaTeX or Markdown even. I'm just going to go back to the project, and I just want to show you quickly with the view of the horizon here. So this is the horizon template, and these are the questionnaires with the format of the Horizon Europe now. So this is how it works. And now I would stop it quickly and let my colleague Kerstin Soltau continue to show you how the transfer works. So I'm stopping sharing now.
Yes, and now I clip in. I hope you see now my screen. Because before I follow up with this little demonstration, I would like to say briefly a few words about RADAR itself, what it is. It's a cross-disciplinary repository service for the archival, publication, and peer review of research data from already completed scientific studies and projects. Its target audience, this is publicly funded research institutions and universities. And with help of RADAR, they can establish an own generic institutional research data repository. RADAR was developed in a project funded by the German research organization called DFG. And since 2017, it's a productive cloud service called RADAR Cloud. And it's available, this cloud service is available exclusively for German academic institutions. Software development and operation is done by my institute, FIZ Karlsruhe, Leibniz Institute for Information Infrastructure. However, 3 years ago, in 2021, we introduced an additional business variant, which is called RADAR Local. And as the name implies, here we run the RADAR software locally on institutions' own IT infrastructure. And this offering can also be licensed outside Germany as well. As you might have noticed, there are some similarities between RDMO and RADAR. Both are DFG funded, they have the same target audience, and both are generic services. However, opposite to RDMO, RADAR as data repository is currently at the end of the research data lifecycle. And to remedy this for the benefit of researchers, the idea of linking these two services with each other was born. And by linking these two services, those descriptive metadata, which are already available in RDMO since researchers entered those during the questionnaire, those can be transferred into the data repository RADAR. And the advantage for the researchers are, of course, duplicate entries are avoided and errors might also be avoided. And here more in detail, how does it work? There are two options for this data transfer, and I will show both methods in a moment. The first option is that users can export RADAR metadata from RDMO as an XML file and import those metadata into an already existing RADAR dataset, which is not yet archived or published. And the second option is called directly to RADAR. That means that users can directly transfer descriptive metadata to RADAR with only a few clicks and create a new data set there. And this is done via the RADAR REST API. And as next steps, they take place in RADAR as soon as these descriptive metadata are there. That means that other metadata can be entered in RADAR afterwards. This must be done at least for those metadata which haven't been entered in RDMO before, but are mandatory or optional fields within RADAR. And of course, the research data must be uploaded into RADAR in a separate step. And finally, of course, the dataset can be curated, archived, peer-reviewed, or published within RADAR. And I also would like to demonstrate this now. For this, I use our RADAR test system, which is linked with the RDMO development system. And I just close my presentation. I hope that you still see it. Do you still see my presentation, or do I have to open it again?
No, we see your website.
You see the website of the RDMO.
We see.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
You see it. And you see that I'm marking up the project at the moment. Yeah. Okay. My edge here is not visible any longer. Okay, good. Then we will continue. It's the same project Kerstin already showed. And she already showed that we have this export section here on the right navigation frame. And we see two options, this SRADAR XML. This means the XML export option. This would give me a simple XML of the descriptive metadata the user entered. However, I would like to focus on the directly to RADAR option, the direct transfer using our REST API, which I will show now. I click simply on this link here. And then in the next screen, I have to choose the data set which I would like to transfer to RADAR. And I also have to select a workspace in RADAR to which I would like to transfer the descriptive metadata. Then I click export to RADAR. And in the next screen, I have to authenticate with RADAR. I enter my test credentials here. And then in the next step, RADAR will create, hopefully, a landing page for this new data set and displays those descriptive metadata which have been transferred from RDMO to RADAR. These are, in this case, the data set name, an abstract description, some keywords have been entered in RDMO and are transferred to RADAR, the production years, subject areas, the rights information, and the funding information. However, you see there are some empty fields, those which are not covered by the RDMO questionnaire, and those have to be entered then in the next step via our form-based, menu-based metadata editor. For example, here then I include author, creator, and rights holder, and these other descriptive metadata necessary according to the RADAR metadata schema. And if I would have chosen export to XML with XML, then I would have the option to drag and drop this XML file, for example, in this section here. Yes, I think this is the end of my little demonstration. I just skip here.
Thank you very much.
And one moment. Yes, I would like to thank you, of course, for your attendance and maybe also for your questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. If you have questions, then please use the reactions at the bottom. And I can see that there are many applauses. Corinna Redman has a question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Kerstin and Kerstin. Could you evaluate a bit more on the metadata that describe the data sets, on how vocabularies they are based on? And the second question that I would have relates to the workspace in RADAR. Has that to be allocated in advance, or is that something that is there anyway per instance?
Yes, Kerstin, I will at least answer the second question. Yes, before an institution is using RADAR, they have to make an agreement with us, with FIZ Karlsruhe, and they have to define a person who is a so-called administrator, who administrates this contract for the using institution. And then this administrator, he sets up different work groups within RADAR, which correspond to project teams, to institutes, and so on. And here we have a rights and role system, and this administrator defines who is a data provider within a certain workspace. So this has, of course, to be set up before in advance.
Well, the metadata itself, it is a bit more, it's not so, let's say it this way, it is usually, this plugin now is focused on the main catalog, so the RDMO catalog. And there are just a few attributes, like I said, it works via the attributes, which connect to these informations. So only this information is then transferred. What you could do probably is then to go into the code and basically tell it to also add other attributes. So yeah, so this is what needed to be done. So you need to be a bit more savvy with these things, I guess, with the coding and with a bit of the computer language.
So, but that would mean also that I would have to do the work double. Yeah, I mean, if I have the metadata, like for example, in the sensor management system, which should be connected to the RDMO, I already entered all the metadata related to my data set, for example, like instruments or something like that. And then how is that, I mean, variable names and instrumentation and so on, how is that then translated to finally, like in RADAR for KIT or whatever? If I would have to do it again in the code, then I have to...
No, I'm not saying that you need to put it in. It's just this is how it works at the moment. This plugin is now made only for a few attributes. So if you want to change this, yes, you need to go and change the code. This is the way it is. But anything else, how you connect another system via the AP to the RDMO, I think you need to talk to the developers here. You know, I'm sorry, but if you've been already in contact with them, right? So
yeah, I'm just waiting. I have not used RDMO so far. I'm waiting for
yeah, you're waiting for the test system to be usable. I know.
Exactly.
It shouldn't take so much longer, really. It's just a few more technical things, and then it should be working soon.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome.
There's also a question from Christina Hetner.
Yes, thank you for this, very advanced, I would say, integration system. It's so nice to see. I was wondering, what is your experience with the usability? Because a DMP is usually, of course, set up in the beginning of a project, and then you want to enter a data set or like publish a data set at the end of a project. So usually a lot of things are happening in between, and things change and evolve. And so what sort of information in practice can you actually link between these two documents, except the persons or the, I don't know. I was wondering, how is your experience in real life?
Well, I'm afraid there hasn't been so much experience yet with the system. We've just been testing it ourselves at the moment, and we don't really know of anybody who's actually using it at the moment. There's a project in Potsdam which will take this more into focus, but I don't know how far they are. This is all I can tell you at the moment. Sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. I just didn't. I missed that, I guess, like the status of the of the project. But thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, there's still a question from Yasmin Tukilmats, and I think after that we will stop the questions for now. There are a couple of questions in the chat, and we may get back to them after we have had the discussions, but time is running, and we'd better proceed with the program. But please, Yasmin.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Thanks for sharing. And I had exactly the same question as Christina, and I understand, of course, it's at a beginning stage. So I would be very curious to see how it will evolve, because it's also a question we have in general, that researchers do it only at the beginning, and what happens later on and how to follow up on that is quite interesting. And I was also I'm trying to understand, because you are gathering all this metadata, but when I think of the data management plans, we use DMP Online. We are in Netherlands at Delft University of Technology, and there we have one question that asks all sorts of data sets, that data that are involved, but then the rest of the questions are all general. So how do you link it per data? Or did you say, maybe I kind of missed it, so that you really have like mini DMPs within the RDMO per data set, so that you can really export metadata per data set? Because when I think of a project, there are all sorts of data that are involved, so not just one type of data.
Yes. So once in this tool, when I put up a data set, then usually I need to answer all questions for each data set. And now the metadata is transferred for each data set. You saw that Ms. Soltau only chose one data set, but there was another data set she could have chosen to transfer it to RADAR. But at the moment, the metadata which is transferred is just a small part, which resembles the metadata template in RADAR. So this is what it is at the moment. This is also what I meant with you want to have more attributes, you want to have more metadata, you need to change it in the code at the moment.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for an interesting presentation. And now it's time for Elisa Rodenburg to give her presentation. So please, Elisa.
Thank you, Kerstin. I will share my screen. I hope you can hear me all right. Please shout if something's wrong with the audio. So I will speak for about 10 minutes, and then we'll have 5 minutes for Q&A. And this is going to be quite a different presentation from the previous one. I will talk about a bit more about work in progress. And I'm also afraid there's not really a demo involved. So very briefly about me, because it will help you to understand what we're aiming for and what the context is. So I've been at the VU Library's RDM support desk since 2020. I've been a data steward officially since 2021. And since last year, I've been a coordinator of the RDM support desk and also a member of the LIBER working group for research data management. And the RDM support desk answers researchers' questions about RDM and open science. And if we don't know the answer to people's questions, we can refer researchers to specialists. And this might be a legal officer, an IT consultant, or someone in their faculty. And we also help researchers with writing a DMP. We give them advice. We review the DMP if they ask us to. And based on the outcomes of the DMP, we might refer a researcher to some other division in the university. This could be a privacy officer, it could be an IT consultant, it could be about IT security or just compute environments. We are kind of the central point in the spider web of different RDM services in which the researcher then gets caught and can never escape from anymore. So about those DMPs, we use DMP Online indeed, and this is managed by the library. We manage the templates. We make sure that the thing works, that the templates have the right questions, that bugs are reported, etc. We review DMPs, but we also have data stewards and faculties who can review DMPs, and they have those rights in DMP Online to see the DMPs. Our institutional DMP template is accepted by Dutch funders. So if researchers want to, they can use our DMP instead of the funder, our template instead of the funder template. And our DMP template also includes questions that are relevant for GDPR registration. And I will talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. But I wanted to show here that we also have a template for those who do not write a DMP or who have already written a DMP in a different template. So in DMP Online, if you click that you are affiliated to the VU, then you will see two templates, our regular DMP Online template and the GDPR registration form. And so as the GDPR is the General Data Protection Regulation, it's the EU privacy law. And as most of you will know, it is a requirement under the GDPR to write, to record in a register what processing steps you will do to personal data. And there is much overlap, sort of naturally there's much overlap with the DMPs in terms of the information that the GDPR registration needs to record. But researchers in general don't like filling out a lot of forms that then all ask for the same thing. So we added a few questions to our DMP Online template that were especially for this GDPR registration. And we also in the online template, we also already had questions that related to GDPR. So those added together, we can create a pretty good GDPR registration. And obviously, there's also questions in the DMP template that do not relate to GDPR. So we used the API from DMP Online to extract information from the relevant questions, the sort of questions relevant to GDPR registration, and we write that to a JSON file. And this JSON file is then the GDPR registration for that project. And as I showed in the previous slide, we also have a GDPR template for those researchers who don't write a DMP, or they wrote it before we had this in place, or they used a different template. For example, if a funder absolutely demands that that template is used. And this form has only the questions that are relevant for the GDPR registration, so it's a lot shorter. And this entire form is also written to the JSON file, and this becomes a registration as well. Organizational challenges mean that it's pretty possible to develop this stuff, especially if you have a colleague who's eager for a hobby programming project, and we did. But embedding these things in the organization is an entirely different cup of tea. So I think I have a photo of two young women here, and they're wearing what we call in Dutch a houtje touwtje jas, and that is a Monty coat, and the fastening in the coat is you have to put a little piece of wood through a piece of string, and it's called a frog fastening in English. In Dutch, it's called houtje touwtje, and that is also an expression for something that is built not very well structured. It's used for a solution that works, but it's also a bit shaky. It's a bit improvised. So we have the colleague who uses the script manually, but nothing is automated. And if he is on holiday, the script doesn't run on its own. And he told me on Tuesday that he has to open his laptop when he is on holiday every day to run the script. So this is not ideal, and we're working with IT to set up a server to automate the exports and automatically save the JSON file in the right location. But due to sort of university bureaucracy, this is now taking over a year. So this is probably not news or surprising to any of you working in universities, but it's good to keep in mind. Don't be disappointed. You can try to prepare for it, but that doesn't always help things. So in terms of a general warning, developing stuff is much easier than embedding it. So despite all my protestations, though, about lack of automation, this is actually a pretty successful project because we actually achieved our goal. We created GDPR registrations for research, and researchers hopefully don't even notice it's happening. And we were actually hoping to replicate this success in a new project, and this we call the RDM Administrations Project. And here we aim to reuse DMP content in other forms, such as the IT service request forms, IT consultation forms, ethical self-check, ethical review forms, privacy-related forms, because they always have a big overlap in terms of the questions that are being asked. And then a researcher has to fill them. Right now, a researcher has to fill them each individually and repeat the same information 5 or 6 times. And our aim is that questions in these follow-up forms are pre-filled with the answers that researchers have already given in the DMP. That is where the questions align. So we hope to reduce the workload for the researchers. At this point, we wrote a DMP for this, and we are looking for an application that can support our goals. And besides, obviously, this technical challenge of finding the right tool, we also have organizational challenges. I outlined one of them in the previous slide. But we're also quite burdened capacity-wise. The time that people can put in for this project are limited. And also we are going to need the support of all the university faculties to eventually get on board with this project and agree to have their ethical review forms in the tool that we end up choosing. And this will also be a bit of a challenge. And that's obviously normal because they have to change the way that they are working, and that's a big ask. We also have 2 faculties on board right now in the project, but we're still in the development phase, so that is really good. And we hope that this can convince other faculties to get on board as well. And obviously there's a financial challenge in the sense that our budget obviously has limits, as all budgets do. So that's it for now. I think I'm doing okay for time, and I will stop sharing. So we have a few minutes for Q&A if anybody has questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Elisa. Yes, and it's time for questions. And to those of you who asked some questions in the chat for the previous presentations, there are some answers there already. But if anybody have questions for Elisa, then please, Marijke.
Yeah, thanks for this very interesting presentation. I would like to know, because I believe to know, and but maybe the colleagues from TU Delft, they can otherwise correct me, that at TU Delft they have created some kind of integration between DMP Online and other administrative systems, among others, I believe Pure, but also regarding GDPR, this GDPR registry. And I would just like to know, and at Maastricht, they have created an entirely different solution. So I would like to know, have you considered collaboration between the Dutch universities? Because we are all looking in awe to the Netherlands and what you accomplished, but I'm seeing quite some fragmentation, and that's of course what one usually would want to avoid, or where you think, okay, can we pool our resources and create something shared? So I was just curious.
Yeah, great question. You're right. In the Netherlands, we're all reinventing the wheel at the same time. And you know, we're also inventing different wheels, so that's indeed not ideal. Yes, the answer to your question is yes. We are actually starting to combine efforts in this in this area, and there are several. Ironically, there are now several working groups of people combining efforts, but we are on each other's radar by now. Yeah. But for as far as I know, the expectation is that this will take a few more years, because it would have to, you know, a possibility is that we would have to have something developed, and that always takes time.
Thank you. Thank you very much again, Elisa, for your presentation and for your answers. So now it's time for the third speaker, who is Elisa Kuusniemi.
There, I hope you can see it.
We can, yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. So it's very nice to see you. So many of you here today. My name is Elisa Kuusniemi. I come from Helsinki University Library and Research Data Management team. So this is very modest example of how you can use content of DMPs. As a background information, I'd like to tell you where we get the DMPs we use. Researchers or consortium who has received a positive funding decision from FIZ Council of Finland must submit a data management plan within 8 weeks after funding decision. And the university needs to ensure that the data management plan can be implemented at the site of research, and the plan complies with good data management practices. In our university, the research data management team of the library is coordinating the reading and commenting DMPs of those researchers or consortiums who has received a positive funding decision from Research Council of Finland. And that's why we have some DMPs to work with. Today I'm tell you about a small study we are doing based on content of the DMPs. In this study, we collected in this study, we concentrated to DMPs from Research Council of Finland. We also read DMPs for EU and other funders, domestic or international, but the Research Council of Finland is the bigger research funder, at least if we count the number of DMPs we read. Yeah, let's see. I think this is the wrong. Yeah. Here you can see the number of DMPs our team read during last summer. We did not include all of them to study, just because study was conducted before we got all of these DMPs. But we read 90 DMPs for this study. And why we did the study? There were three main points. First, we are setting up a new data preservation service, and we need information about preservation needs of research projects. Second reason was that we got new staff members last spring, and not all of them were familiar with DMPs. The study was a way to get new employees to read the DMPs and get familiar with the content. And third reason was that we wanted to know whether data preservation services should be advertised to all researchers who received positive funding decision, or only to those who indicated a need for preservation services. So targeted marketing tends to be more effective, but how many research projects who got funding does not produce research data which should be preserved? That was our question. The study was carried out by new members of our staff during the summer and autumn of 2023. Study questions were: what are data types mentioned in the DMPs? What are common file formats? What are data repositories or storage services mentioned? What are data size estimates? And what are needs mentioned for data preservation, mentioned by researchers, or mentioned by our data support experts when reviewing the DMP? Our results then. Only 15 DMPs of these 90 mentioned need for long-term preservation. In this case, long-term preservation means over 25 years preservation. And 12 DMPs of these 90 mentioned need for middle-term preservation, and in this case, middle-term preservation time is 5 to 15 years. So these are the options for preservation services we have in our university. Then we sent those who were mentioning these needs targeted email mentioning that they have reported their preservation needs in the DMP. So we asked if they would like to discuss preservation options with us, because we know that preservation is not something that you can do after the research project, but you need to plan it carefully before you start collecting your data. So we are now organizing these meetings with those who said yes, and most of them also have some previous datasets they want to preserve. So we have actually found a lot of more datasets that we presumed. So we got a quite good amount of yeses. However, we don't yet know exactly how many of the email recipients answered yet. It is over 60%, but how much over that we don't know yet. Our next step then. We are planning to modify the DMP template so that we can more easily get information about preservation. this point, at this time, we needed to pick up this information from free text fields, and it was time-consuming work. And we do not yet know if sending an email to all researchers who have received a positive funding decision is equally effective than this type of targeted marketing. We just presume it is. We might try to send email to all who have received a positive funding decision in the next funding call, just to compare the results. But if only about 15% of the research projects really think they need preservation services, it might be a good idea to try targeted marketing with the future calls as well. And at least we are quite happy with the results we got this time. So that's it from my part. Any questions or comments?
If that's not the case, then we will proceed to the group discussions, and I'll just share my screen for a moment. We have prepared a couple of discussion points for you, but you're very welcome to add other discussion points as well. The first one is any ideas what information from DMPs we should use to provide better services, and the second is where or to which services could we integrate information from DMPs. And I hope that someone will share the link to these discussion points and the document behind it in the chat, because then you will be sent out into breakout rooms. And I think the link is already there. Thank you very much. So that we can proceed with the discussions there. And you will have 25 minutes in the breakout room, which means that we will meet again 2:30. So it seems that we are all back in the main room. I hope that we are. And I've shared my screen with you. So we will go through all the groups and start with group 1, which was led by Meg. Are you also reporting from group 1?
Yeah, we didn't have time to discuss who will report, so I start and others can add if I forget something. So we were discussing about the what kind of information to use to provide better services, and there was examples like estimation of data storage needs could be seen from the DMPs, and we could spot out the research project which use very sensitive data to offer them some extra support. And then we could estimate also what other resources are needed, some kind of extra help from the data support or something. And then you could also ask feedback about DMPs at the end of the DMP template, so that you can actually get can use it as a feedback form as well. And one discussion point was that DMP is kind of formulating the discussion between researchers and support personnel. So it's a kind of tool for discussing about data management planning. And then about with services we could integrate information. We got here, you can see the list here. So that's our thoughts about this question.
Thank you very much, Maria Elisa. Are there others from the breakout room that would like to add some things to the answers from group 1? No. Okay, then we'll proceed with group 3. There's apparently no group 2. So let's take group 3, led by Jordan Cohen. And are you also the reporter?
We didn't discuss that either, so I'll report in if people in the group feel something wasn't said, but maybe just feel free to tell us. So yeah, we were thinking about what the information for the DMPs we could use for better services. We were thinking, of course, like making DMPs more operable and more mission actionable, make them easier to use. The DMP's content should also be considered as data itself. So to have good metadata that describes these DMPs. The DMPs could also help for developing some preservation plan and to alert IT services for when to delete some data, what to delete, how to delete it, what to destroy, and to delete when there's GDPR concerns. Maybe see how we can make the researcher update the DMP and how to incorporate tasks into these DMPs to educate the researcher and get maybe some outcomes out of the DMPs. Then for the second question, we kind of got out topic a bit, but it was really interesting point of view. So we kept on going on that way. So it's the same thing as to which criteria to set on which data to preserve or not, because that is a real problem. We thought that there's no criteria on which data we should preserve. Also on the elements of DMPs, thinking about which is scientifically driven so that the researchers could really think about these scientific point of views and not only the administrative part of the DMP, so that their data is really more interoperable in their community. And so these are the aspects where the researchers should really be involved in, and have some aspects where the data librarians, data stewards, the IT department gets involved as well. We should also maybe think about organizing community discussions to agree on standards that are relevant for a research domain, for example. So that means they're scientifically relevant. The DMPs could be used for different purposes as well, educating the researcher in research data management and using the DMP to get their attention, but not really just by the DMP and then it's all over. It's really to help them get more understanding on the data. We can extend the DMPs for researchers that are using AI tools as well, so that they use them well and they are aware of what they are using. We thought about maybe does everything really need to be in the DMP? It's good to help the researchers think about the concerns, even if everything isn't written in the DMP. Finding elements that are scientifically relevant, as is in the Finnish DMP template, where there is data quality control, even though it is really difficult to write, but it's important to add that on it. And finally, how can we check if a DMP is actually followed up? So yeah, that's about everything I think we discussed.
Thank you very much. That was
no problem.
A lot of issues you came
Yeah.
over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else from breakout room that would like to comment on this? Okay. Then we have group 4 led by Manna Satama.
Yep. We didn't either decide on who's going to report our discussion, so I might just say a few words and the others can add. Quite many similar things that previous groups already have discussed. We perhaps, I think that what I could pinpoint at this place was that we discussed about the sort of the idea of a DMP being a living document, and everybody knows that nobody updates the DMP in the meanwhile. So it's just sort of a words that don't come into flesh. So we also discussed, because of this, we discussed about the idea that should we more talk about sort of a DMPs in different phases of the research. It's the first phase of when the project is beginning. So when you sort of describe that what you are planning to, what kind of data you're planning to have, what kind of services you figure you need, and then it's the sort of the last DMP would be when the project has ended. And then we also discussed about the snapshot tool, or the snapshot thing that was in the RDMO, which sounds quite interesting and good. Then what else did we discuss? We discussed these RDM plugins in software that researchers already are using for introducing or handling their data, processing their data. So like SPSS and other. So in the analogy of citation or that kind of plugins in that we have, for example, Zotero. And then we, of course, we ended up in taking up the idea that we cannot solve every discipline in one solution, that we need to have these prototypes and then work from there on. And the mapping comes into play at this point. I think that was pretty much what we discussed.
Yeah, thank you, Manna. Comments from the breakout room? No. And then we have group 5, and we selected a reporter, and that's Claudia Kramer.
Okay, thank you, Kirsten. So just a brief summary. The group anytime can add something if I skipped important things. So at the beginning or in the middle, we agreed that in general that DMPs can improve services because they collect needs and structure the work of researchers, and there's really lots of important information in data management plans that's worth reusing. So now I try to align our answers a little bit to the questions. I put it in italic letter. So first is the idea to enrich content of e.g. archive. So there was example from Kirsten from the National Archive of Denmark to deliver information from DMPs to the archive. Targeted services. So the software management is a big challenge. So DMPs can also help to structure this and to think of what is needed in regard to managing software. And the part of the services where DMPs could help, or where the information is very much putting the output forward. This is administration service. It's, for example, the GDPR relevant information, what is already regarded in DMPs. So this could be used elsewhere, because you have to answer those questions usually very thoroughly. Then the next example is you can use DMP information for creating metrics and evaluation. There's an example from Leuven, where the colleagues are going to use DMPs for an internal audit that's aligned along the research data lifecycle, and they put a score for the level of all their services. So the DMP is very helpful to go through those steps. So we were discussing that it's worth this researchers take a look back once they have finished a project, and they have to ask themselves, or to have do a kind of evaluation if they have achieved what they was trying to do, or what they promised in the DMP. I don't know if there has been ever any kind of punishment or something else from a third-party funded project. If it's not the case, would be interesting to hear about that. And so, as we learned from the presentations at the beginning, there's a need to connect those services shared by the participants, so to discuss about the tools, and maybe to share those tools and to make connections for exchanging the data out of DMPs into other services and tools at the universities. So that was output from our breakout room 5. So are there any questions?
Thank you, Claudia. Any comments or additions from the breakout room? No, then we will proceed with group 6, led by Anna Petrus.
Thank you, and I will summarize it, and please, the others from the group, feel free to add on. I think many points were already mentioned in a similar way. What our ideas were on what information that could be used to provide better services. In general, what we see in DMPs is what kind of expertise is needed by the researchers. And that means not necessarily expertise in the way of like we need certain technical tools to create, of course, those would be helpful, but really personal expertise, like what kind of specialist could improve our services. How could they help researchers to write better DMPs or have it easier in the entire funding process of creating DMPs as well? So mostly legal and ethical expertise seems to be missing, at least in our group. Also, I was a moderator, but also from my side, I can really say that this is the same here. So this is like a big gap that was established, the need for legal expertise, which is on the one hand concerning questions of ethics, on the other hand also concerning compliance with the GDPR. So this is something that was really seen from DMPs. One possible solution, apart from hiring really people, would be to set up data management support units at faculty. So that would be an idea. We all agreed that we want integration, and basically the more the better. So it's not like to integrate only one thing, but to have it in an ideal world, everything under the same umbrella and interchanging information would be ideal. But there is a general lack of money and personnel. However, in this ideal world, or something we're working towards, the services that could be integrated, of course, legal services, if there are any, at least some legal expertise. It could also be just one person. It doesn't need to be an entire department of legal support. Same for ethics. Research support office is a possible candidate because depending on the institution you work at, certain questions are solved there. Then data protection officers, they could be within legal services, they could be separate. IT services, patents office, again, could be part of legal service, etc. And also not to forget state libraries. I think that was really interesting because not all universities have their own library. Many do, but not all. And this sometimes goes forgotten. So also look outside of your own garden and try to incorporate services which do cater to researchers, even if they're not in the same campus, like the state's libraries, for example. So those were these two main questions. What was generally discussed apart from those two focuses, I already said something about, ethics is a big question, and generally personal data needing to be protected. DMP as a living document. That was also, you said that, Claudia, in your summary, I think, or before Mana. So researchers don't see the DMP as a living document. They fill it out once in the beginning and then they forget about it, unless the funder asks for an update of it. So, for example, the Swiss National Foundation does ask for an update at the end, but this is only one funder. Also in Switzerland, there's like one example, the rest doesn't ask for it. So really, that could be a possible improvement. It was also mentioned that ERC DMPs are usually filled out a bit more proper because one is afraid of the review from the European Union, but the other DMPs are usually just checking boxes. And it's not just the fear how to fill out or not knowing how to fill it out, it's also not being able to how to formulate answers for the DMP. That's a big trouble for the researchers. So another possibility would be that, so in Denmark, that was, I think, an example by Sarah Marie. They harvested nice formulations and put it all together in like a best practice kind of body of knowledge sentences to fill out DMPs properly. So we shouldn't forget that languages could be an issue because DMPs are mostly in English. So that could be a fact. And last thing, DMP trainings for students. I think that was a nice example for Netherlands that some faculties, but not all, have mandatory trainings. So the policy as it is mandatory for the entire university, but the training is really individual. And the need for that came bottom up. So really the students pushed for that and wanted to have this training in order to be able to properly fill out the DMPs and in general deal with all questions data management. So it was a nice example, I think, of how even, grassroots action could do something. I think that would be it. Please, the group, feel free to add on if I missed something.
Thank you, Anna. And time is already 4 minutes to 3. But before we end, we have another small poll question for you, and I think the LIBER office will present it. While you're writing, I want to thank you all for participating in this event. And I particularly want to thank the speakers for the presentations. It was indeed interesting to learn about your experiences in this matter. And thanks also to all of you who participated in the breakout rooms and joined the discussion. I think it's really fruitful to have all this input from all of you. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you again at other events, LIBER events.